Welcome to December. We've hit the end of the year yet again. When you consider how many years have been going now, it feels like I've done a few Christmases. But I have put in here my little Santa gnome, kind of Santa gnome. This was, I don't know if you've seen them, but Sharon Connolly, she's actually created all these little corporate gnomes that you can color in your own colors. So thank you, Sharon, for supplying that so I can put it up all over my background and in everywhere. The available presentation is in the link. I've thrown it into chat. You can just scan this and it will get you to it. The recording does go live afterwards, so I will put that up on my YouTube channel if you wish to subscribe to it, and then that way you'll get the notification to say that it is live, because it might take me a day or so. I do try to put it up within the week as a rule, but when it does go into our chat, you actually won't be able to have access to it in the chat in terms of the permissions around it. So I'll take it online for you. It is a recorded session. So if you don't wish to be part of the session, then please feel free to leave now. I ask that we stay on mute so that we don't have it running through the recording. I'm happy to have questions along the way as well, so I'll get you to raise your hand, or you can put them into chat if you have questions at any point. So raise your hand or chat. Another thing is you can turn on your closed captions, great for accessibility, or maybe English is not your first language, or I just go really fast and you're trying to keep up. Then you might want to go into the more button, which is your ellipsis button, little three dots up the top, go to your language and speech and turn on live captions to help and support you. I'd just like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we're meeting from today, and to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders who's actually joined us. So welcome one and all. I ask that we be aware of others, we be understanding that we all come at this with different viewpoints and understanding when it comes to Microsoft 365, so we just need to be considerate. If you are typing in chat, let's use appropriate GIFs and or memes that you might be going in along the way. So I always start with the what have I been up to? I know you're always hanging out to find out, because I wasn't here in November, and if you remember rightly, I went on holidays. Okay, in November, I'm kind of going, oh, I feel really bad that I'm not running and keeping up to date on the content. And then I just went, actually, no, I don't feel bad. I'm having a really good holiday. So what was I up to? We did all of Norway. We went right up the coast of Norway on the ferry. That was our stops the whole way up. We managed to hit a rather impressive storm on the way up that was going up to 10-meter waves. So we pulled in and missed about 5 ports. However, we did have a lot of fun. My mum knitted us all beanies, and she gave us little Aussie kangaroos that decided that always wanted to try and go home and very was always like, I'm out of here. Did snow hotels. We did the North Cape. We crossed the Arctic line. We went right up to the top. It is really, really cold up there. I left here in winter. I went up to freezing, freezing, and then I came back to a heat wave of 38 in Sydney. It's been a little harsh, guys. It's been a bit harsh. I did not get a chance to acclimatise at all. Did some amazing dog sledding. My mum is disabled, she's in a wheelchair, so we could only do so much, but she was determined to go dog sledding no matter what, and they were amazing. They helped with lifting her. She's not a small lady, lifting her all the way over ice and snow and helping her to get into the dog sledding for us to go and do it. They were just so wonderful up in Chicanese. So it was just the most stunning scenery. We got to do a very midnight, it was like nearly 11 o'clock at night, sneak to the Russian border, where we got told to be careful because they are watching you quite closely. You cannot do any untoward faces. It was like, so I can't poke tongues. No, you can't poke tongues, or no hand gestures or anything. Should you do that, we get a fine for every single time someone does it. But if you remember rightly, I know, right? It was like, anyway, our main reason for going, my mum was on her bucket list to see the Northern Lights. So did we do it? Because remember, I told you that when I was leaving in October. Yes, we had about 5 nights of the Northern Lights. These are all my photos of the various nights of the Northern Lights. Truly stunning. And if you've ever gone up and you've seen, we get the Southern Lights as well, but and the Northern Lights and getting that camera out, you can only do it when you can see it through a camera. It's kind of like a hazy greenish side of a cloud, very pale, that you can see through the naked eye, but you put your camera up and it just lights up. So quite stunning. And depending on where you are on Earth, you may or may not be seeing these at different times, but we went out of our way. So quite beautiful. And of course, in my cake decorating, in that world, I went and I was creating figurines with quite a famous international artist. So it was a lot of fun. It was a full day hardcore course creating figurines. And what else have I been up to? I was running Microsoft's promptathons. I have done lots of webinars and in-person plus virtual promptathons in Microsoft Copilot, and helping people to understand, what does it actually take to do a good prompt. So we were in all these, like a hackathon, except they're called a promptathon, and some fabulous stuff that you can actually do across this space. So that's kind of what I've been up to. Now, I actually have a survey that I would love for you to fill out for me. And so if you're on the call, I can see we've got a few that have come in now, and we're having a look at it. I'm looking at what I can do for the new year. There's a couple of questions in there. One, I'd love to know how, we, because it's lots of presenters, so it's more than just me. How did we do in 2024? So we'll go and have a look. If you're interested in filling it out, the scan is there. It is, would you like to come to a hybrid session at the Microsoft Reactor? Do you want me to take it back hybrid again? Which day? I've always been running it on a Tuesday. So it's always the first Tuesday of the month. Every now and again, I'll do it on a Friday, just when I used to always run the Melbourne user group, because I used to go from Sydney and then fly out and go down to Melbourne. Let's have a look, because if I was thinking of even doing in person, then maybe it's a certain time that you're actually in the city in Sydney. And then there's also a time preference. So morning, lunch, afternoon, evening. So if you can give me a hand in voting and filling out, that would be awesome. If you can scan it and put it in, I'll give everyone a chance to fill that out for me. Okay. So here we go. I can come back if you've scanned it in. We'll see if anyone fills it out. I'll come back to it as well towards the end. Okay. Go in. Not seeing anything coming through yet. Mind you, I might have to do a refresh. Sometimes it needs to do a refresh. Let's do just a refresh. Reload. And we'll see. Otherwise, we'll come back. So what's new in adoption? So I wanted to go through that, and then we'll start on the Ignite. Couple of components that are really going to help us out. There was the Forrester Total Economic, don't have permission to view this form for me. Oh, it was coming up on the screen, even though it was okay. Thank you, Mel. Let me just double check on the permissions. So I'm just going to reload. And or I might have to go into the form itself. Potentially. I'll fix it and we'll come back around to it. Same for you too. Okay, thank you. Maybe I didn't set the permissions properly when I was in here on Office. We'll come back. Okay. So the Forrester's TEI study. Now, this one's actually come out. We had one that was more for enterprise. This one's actually focused more on the SMB space, that SMB, SMC kind of space. I suppose it sort of sits in there. A great study that's actually been put out there. There is both the video, so you can watch the video, and then there's the actual paper itself if you want to go and have a read of the paper. In there, I think the main core things to have a look at, so this is the paper. It will give you a bit of an idea. If we said for SMB, it was going to have up to a 353% return, that's pretty impressive. But even at the low end of 132%, that's high. Okay, it's not even a small amount in terms of the return. When I'm talking about this from an adoption perspective, I look at, it's got there the 25% acceleration to new hire. when we look at it in increasing in revenue, operating costs, all these things, I also want to think about the fact that if this is actually going on, it means that you're going to retain staff as well, because they'll have a higher level of satisfaction, employment. It seems like they get lesser meetings. All these things come into play to be able to support. Now, another research that came out, and this is specifically for the Australian audience, it was around to that Gen AI co-pilot, and it's been put up by sort of some of those industry leaders. And it is saying that there is not enough adequate training going on around Gen AI, which is where we're seeing, quite a few issues. And it's been consistent over the last year. They're starting to slowly get it, but if you are out there, it's really important that this change piece actually goes in. We've found that there's been a increased customer satisfaction as part of an organization that has rolled out Gen AI, and it's actually saved time by those decision makers. It's been 100% across the board. Okay, so well worth some of those investments. I think one of the core takeouts that I particularly liked was that the greatest success rates actually came from appointing change managers to partner with them, and that especially across that IT space to drive forward the adoption. When you had that, everything started falling into place for businesses. Now, that's been same old argument. It's been around for a really long time. Even ProSci have stating that if you have it, you've got 7 times more likely success around adoption if you have your, change component included. We just need to make sure, because it's not exactly a cheap product to be purchasing per person. So it's a very large topic in terms of the co-pilot training show. Yeah, I agree. The resources available, skills is one of the things that are a bit of an issue. There is a couple of different components across Microsoft Learn to be able to help. There is the user experience that's now including Copilot as a skill set as well, that's kind of come into play. But when it comes to very specific, the MCT side of things, it's a little harder, without a doubt. So I think one of the things that's come in that's rather interesting across all these reports is that 1 in 5 actually feel like they're cheating when they use AI. Um, so if we're trying to get to a particular output and doing it on our own, then we need to look at how we can actually remove guilt around it. It's quite important, and that we have a bit of an adaptive leadership around it. So it's got a real change-led focus to empower people to experiment and use it. Okay, so really important we start to think about it and make sure employees don't feel bad actually about it, and use all of those possibilities. Okay. Yes, executive buy-in absolutely is the key. It's really important. But I'm also seeing a lot of people purchasing the license just purely for the execs and not actually doing a team. And that's not necessarily always the correct way to go either. It's great to have them on early, but we need their team kind of, or at least one of them with their whole team with it, because just getting them on their own is not going to support it. Okay. There's the new AI data drop, the 11 by 11 tipping point. It's some research that's actually gone out there. So you'll see there's a bit of data around it, that it takes 11 minutes of time savings for them to feel like AI is useful. Then it actually takes approximately 11 weeks to get to the point where they feel like it's improved lots of key areas. And that's your workplace, your productivity, your lessering of meetings that you're having to attend because of it. It's work-life balance and satisfaction, job satisfaction, I think is the main, like that enjoyment, workplace enjoyment. So if it's taking that long, then we have to rethink our pilots, because if we want to get to adoption, then we're going to need a little bit longer as a lead time. Those 2 to 4 weeks is not going to cut it. Okay. Yeah. Anyhow, so there was some news, when you come into Work Lab, there is a bit there in terms of the Work Lab. There is a new piece in, and it was also discussed at Ignite and a few other places around the DAO and how DAO have actually been using AI for cost savings. It's a good read, and there's also the audio. I'm really got words not coming out of my mouth. It must be the end of the year. And it's a Friday. I've been talking all week. But what I particularly liked about this podcast, that's the word I'm thinking of. It's going to be a long day. The podcast. What I particularly liked on the news article, but she does talk about it in the podcast, that to be able to push hard enough in that meaningful, measurable change, but also not lose your audience, and that it can actually be a little daunting and a little scary for employees that might have a bit of a struggle to get a handle on it. So we need to help our senior leaders on some of those messages and what they kind of need to do. Okay. The release notes in terms of Microsoft adoption, one actually has gone up over the last little bit. That's actually a focus on what I would look at. There are areas that I don't tend to dive into so much, like Copilot for sales, and there's sort of areas that I won't actually touch on. But what I want to touch on is that there is now on the adoption site, the GCC site. So this is if you're in the government space, they've got a whole adoption site now for you. Kate Johnson. Yes, she did. She used to be, president of the Microsoft NA. Thank you. Yes, she really is, and she gets it. I think that's the cool thing, is she can talk to it properly. So on there, it's got user enablement for the whole public sector, what that actually looks like. Now, there's certainly not as much on the adoption site for the GCC as what there is across the enterprise and or even sometimes the SMB side. However, it's really geared to where are we at. I do like some of the information that's actually in there. Sometimes we've got gaps across one or the other, and we can actually fill it in with content from somewhere else. So if you're finding there's a gap on the enterprise side, maybe go and have a look and see what they've got on Gov, and or if it's not on Gov, do they have something on SMB that might fill it in? They're pretty good across the board, but I have occasionally found things here and there. There's also a new adoption site in regards to organizational messages that you can push out. So these messages are actually ones that you can sit in the administrator side. You can push out into Windows 11 so that you can have those little pop-ups, your little Windows pop-ups in the bottom right-hand corner to help drive adoption. Right. So it actually has a whole site now on the adoption side about that, focused purely on it and how you can do it. In the implementation summary guide for leaders, it's a new one that's actually come out, and there's some great information that's in there, and also in the user enablement guide. Go and have a look, because there's speaker notes that have now gone in there. So if you weren't sure as to how you might execute it, they've now putting speaker notes across the board on a lot of the presentations. There is one new slide that's actually gone in there that I particularly like, which is based off the ProSci research, that if you do adoption, then your usage and the proficiency and everything is going to escalate. It's a good one that you might want to be putting in front of sort of senior leaders or your audience to try and help them, or maybe you doing business cases, for example. So a couple of things to help you there. In the customer success kit, there has been some guides that have dropped in there now. We've got, and I talked back in October, the one for Microsoft Excel had actually already rolled out, but now we've got PowerPoint, Word, and Teams included. These are all sort of training, getting started. There is a couple of things that you might want to take into consideration in terms of the document. There's some that aren't as big as others, so they're a little simpler. The Word one is somewhat extensive, but in there are screens. So the fact that we've got some information in there, like visualize as a list, for example, that is not currently kind of showing across the board. There's a few things there, they're coming. But if you are doing training right now, you might find that a couple of these pictures actually aren't a true representation of your environment. So just have a look at what you've got, have a look at what's in the presentation if you are using it for training, and you might want to advise your audience as you're going through that this is a feature that's coming, okay? In the PowerPoint getting started, it is a lot simpler. The Word one is quite extensive. PowerPoint is a little bit simpler. Now, there are some new features, of course, and with Ignite, we're going to touch on some of the stuff that's actually coming. So hopefully they'll do an update across all of these to support some of the new features that are rolling out. In the Copilot user engagement tools and templates, there are new some new email templates that have gone in. So you'll see here the user onboarding templates and manager templates here. So some of those are, and what we've got now is Excel, because Excel is now out of kind of its, beta pilot and has gone live. So that's gone in. There's also a do more with Microsoft 365 Copilot. So these are the two new ones that have physically gone in. Now there is a and you'll see this is in, so you got your manager onboarding as well. So this one's the end user and this one's the manager onboarding over on the right hand side. Now not a lot has actually changed over on the manager onboarding as such inside that folder. However, underneath the user onboarding, there is a leadership comms. Now, this one here, the email for the exec intro announcement, has had IRM against it, and I was not able to open it. So I have passed on that feedback to the team and going, we can't actually open it. It's in the success kit. This is not good. You've got a lot of people downloading the success kit, and we can't actually open that document. So they're fixing it. They'll be loading it back up. You should see it come up in the recent changes on the release of the news, hopefully, so you can download it again if you want to go and get that particular template. Okay, so keep an eye out on that one. Another new site that has gone live on the Microsoft adoption pages is this new Agents in SharePoint. And we're going to talk a little bit about that when we get into the Ignite component as to what that is. You will find over and down the bottom, so if you come down the bottom, you've actually got 4 pieces here that you can go and download it. This one here is the common scenarios. It's just one page. That's it. It's just a simple one-pager. The user learning and help, the frequently asked questions, and the adoption guide. So the FAQs I do like. There's quite a few pages. There's around about 5, I think, pages all up. For the user side of it, it has all the FAQs it's needed for agents. There's a one-pager on the more technical as well, but there are 2 pages for users. Great ones that you can actually use to copy and paste and put into your own FAQs. You don't necessarily need to be putting this as one whole component. Online, because they might not be interested in the technical, especially if you've got a user side of it. So things you can copy and paste. When it comes to the videos, there's a whole heap of the kind of getting started, interacting. There are 6 videos all up that you could connect into your own learning environment if you wish to. Over on the adoption side, as you scroll down and you go into the leadership section, there is a new piece around delivering business results. So you can go and download that. In there is a presentation. There are, plenty of pages in there. If I remember rightly, there's about 20 odd pages. This is a snippet of those where it's actually got some templates in there to help you be able to fill out things like, articulating your goals and use cases and, who are they and, functions. So it's a bit of a, what are you going to do template. So you can then see an example of that particular template as needed, guys. So, okay. If you're on the Microsoft Teams for frontline workers, there is a new playbook that's actually being pushed out. Got some really fabulous information. It's quite extensive. I think it was like nearly 60 odd pages. It was a crazy big presentation with some fabulous content in there. I couldn't even do a screen clipping of a lot of the pages because there's a lot in there. But this gives you a bit of an idea of what's actually in there. It's got a lot of day in the life of, and so all these different scenarios, how to build out, how to articulate it, how to get them on board if you're having problems. One I really recommend, because even if you don't have it you don't have frontline workers, there's some really awesome ways to be able to help you get over the line on this. Okay. The Microsoft Teams new chat and channel experience has its own page as well as an ebook and user guide for it. It has rolled out. It is in preview at the moment. I know that a lot of us have already got it, and it depends on the rings that you've set up inside your business as to whether it's hit you or not. I am seeing it rolling out to the vast proportion. I haven't seen many kind of holding back, but some do. Terms of a cadence. They might have a quarterly cadence of things. Okay. There is in there a guide. It's a 12-page guide to be able to support, or you can put it up on your site, or maybe you're going to use it to create some content yourself if you wish to. But there is a presentation that actually has it all listed out. It has 20 pages in it. It's got step by steps. You might want to potentially customize this in your own colors and branding to be able to do your own training if you're trying to push out and give them a bit of an understanding. It is a really good time, guys, to go out there and help people understand how to work in channels. Use this as an opportunity to redo some training on channels to try and get channel usage up. We're seeing a lot of chat and group chats, and a lot of people still don't understand how to use channels. So take it maybe a little step further on not just what does it mean to have them join together and how to use it, but why use a channel over a chat, and take it that little bit further. Okay. The OneDrive has its own its own site as well now as page with lots of information and announcements and what's new. I am particularly liking that because there has been a lot that's actually been happening in the OneDrive space especially over the last year. There are some disability awareness backgrounds you might want to download and have. There's some pretty flowers to be able to support Disability Awareness Week. In the scenario library, we used to have it based on just functional areas. So this is one, and we've talked about these functional areas a few times and where it's increased across the various components. The one thing I would take note of, it's no longer got kind of marketing communications, it's just communications. So that has changed in its wording if you're looking at it or you're trying to find it. I think it was marketing communications, if I remember rightly. That has. But now what we've got is industry scenarios as well. And it's not even really a regrouping of the original information in function areas. There is some of that. It is actually quite a bit of new content. So if you are in the government space, go in and have a look, because there's often presentations and things that you can actually download. It can be those day in the life ofs, or it can be scenarios for specifically, that industry. So there's some awesome content in there. We still don't have live. I have asked now for 4 months and I'm still harassing the team. We still don't have the change management scenario in this function area up here. It actually sits underneath operations. I am still going hard for you to try and get that fixed. It actually doesn't allow the download for the function area for change managers. So I'll keep going, and anyway, we'll see how we go. I've been rattling the cages for us. If you haven't watched us, the Champs Call and all of its resources are available. Some really good information there. Mark Cashman came on to present in regards to Microsoft Lists. So if you want to have a little bit of a look at lists and what's going on there, you can go and watch it and download the presentation. Although there's not much in the presentation to help you kind of around lists. It's more the video to watch than anything. Then there's the getting up to speed around the announcements from Microsoft Ignite. So you can always go and watch that and download it. But you're here. We're going to tell you anyway. If you go online to Tech Community has actually had quite a bit of a revamp. If you go on there, so now you can go and in the events area, you can filter and start to see things like the community calls, and you can sort of plug in that champions piece. There's also, don't forget, the Microsoft at Mondays, where Caruana and Heather bring along some guests to speak, as well as mainly these guys, and they'll talk to various people along the way. So always some good content there. Sometimes you can go in a little into the technical when that kind of goes a bit more over my head. Depends on the topic. Underneath the Viva events, if you're going in there, coming up literally next week on the 12th of December is the first look at the Microsoft 365 Copilot Measurement Strategy Playbook. So this is the measurement strategy, showing you what's going to be in the playbook and how you can actually do it. One I would recommend, because there is some changes coming in terms of the Viva Insights Copilots, which we'll talk about as well. With Sharon and I will touch into it. Don't forget, you got your learning community. You can go and watch all the latest videos on there. You can go into the community hub and you can go and see things by the Work Smarter productivity tips. I do love the productivity tips. They're great newsletters that you can plug in for your end users on how to do things. It's got all this whole new Working Smarter. There's also a small business one as well if it interests you, but you can go and filter and go and watch them. So there are ones on OneNote and Whiteboard, and it can be, you can see over here, there's all these kind of efficiency type, ones to be able to work with. If you go into the customer hub, there's lots of ones that you can actually register, record, watch afterwards, as well as the new on demand. And I talked about this back at the user group in October. This is now the recording around, AI for work and home in the OneDrive space and what's going on there. So if you want to go and watch that one, it's one I would recommend. There is all of the community days. There is the Viva events that are actually happening. So the one that's actually coming up is you got the recording that's there to be able to watch as well. And then go into community, and you can see in the Microsoft community any answers if you're trying to ask for some questions or try and find out things from the specialists out there. So keep an eye out on all of that. Now let's get over to Microsoft Ignite. Are we ready? And all that entails. So when it comes to Microsoft Ignite, there is the book of news. And in the book of news, we'll actually lay out lots of news. And we are going to really be focused on the AI, agents, Copilot, and modern work. I do recommend certain sessions that will really help you. So if you're across the adoption space, these are the ones that I would actually recommend. One, go watch the Ignite keynote. Now, there's going to be lots in there that does dive into the technical. It doesn't hurt to actually watch that to kind of see what's coming as an overarching, because although you may not necessarily live in the technical, it will help you to understand the vision of where, all this technology is actually going. There was a whole heap of kind of breakout type sessions that were in person in Chicago around adoption. There is no recording for those guys. So you might see them, you might filter them, but you won't be able to see it. These are ones that have got recordings. So you can watch the recording, you can download the recording, you can download transcripts. Maybe there was something in there where they're demoing something, you might even be able to crop it right down with the download that you can load up into your own learning tools as well. So the ones about driving adoption, I've put kind of up the top here in engagement. So tools to drive. I particularly like the AI success with the insights. So this is some of that measuring and recording. That was one I think was of real value. Then when we get down, there's the Power User Masterclass if you're trying to get your head around it. Then there's going into the chats, the channels. Now this one here, it says technical details and applications, but it's really not that technical. It's one I would still recommend you actually watching because it goes into Copilot pages and actions and what that looks like. Okay, so there's some of my recommended sessions. But let's get in. Let me introduce you to Sharon. Sharon is on the call as always. Sharon does some amazing work across the community. Not only is she an MVP, but she's a regional director. So she's kind of our god. She's been doing this for a really long time. Bow down to you, Sharon. Take it up. There's not that many regional directors that are around the globe in the scheme of things compared to us MVPs. MVPs is nearly 3,000 of us, 3,500. Yeah. How many regional directors are there?
About 200.
There you go. It takes a lot to be a regional director, and that is a lot of work. And I'm glad it's you and not me. And a lot of people say to me, I'm glad it's you, not me, when it comes to MVPs. So, everyone kind of goes, you do a lot. She also is a certified trainer, a learning expert, and, heads up the Group Global Community Initiative as well as the regional lead, doing lots of amazing stuff. The fact that she's a Six Sigma black belt, I don't think I got to black belt. I think I only got to, where did I get to? I did it for a while and then, I stopped. I was at Telstra and started working towards the black belt. I worked with all of the black belts, so it all just rubbed off on me. I was in the Six Sigma team. So, I do understand it because I was on the Six Sigma team at Telstra, literally running all the projects for Six Sigma across our largest, that's our comms, our big comms business here in Australia. So welcome, Sharon.
Thanks for having me.
It's so very exciting to have you come along and to help us to understand a few things from Microsoft Ignite. And I know we're going to have a bit of a discussion around some of it for everyone and try and untangle some of it. Because for me, some of it gets a little technical, even though they say it's, not so much in the technical. The average kind of business user really wouldn't understand or get it. And I know that I was looking at stuff going, I'm trying to get my head around that. I know it's going to be of value to a business, but living in that change comms training space, and although I kind of sit between the technical and the end user, there's still stuff that can be a little hard to articulate because in the back end it's got technical stuff going on, but it really affects the end user, and we've got to be able to articulate it. So helping us to untangle that is a little important. We're going to start with modern work, go into Copilot agents, and then Copilot Studio. So the modern work stuff is things that I get because I kind of live in the modern workspace. Copilot stuff, get a good portion of it. Agents and Studios starts to go, mm. So your help here would be amazing. So let's get ourselves started on some of the the new features. And I'm going to hand over to you, and I'm going to chime in like the little terrier in the background going.
No, I think it's great. I think, there's so much of this and even like you've watched sessions and I've watched sessions and
Yes.
I'm sure the people on this call have watched sessions and you still can't get it all. There's so much
Yes.
information.
Yes,
I
there
always
is.
go back to the book of news and I try to like go through and try to, figure out what even was there because so much
Yep.
is happening.
Yes.
So we figure we start with the easy stuff. So Microsoft
Easy
Teams,
for
right?
me.
Microsoft Teams. Now it's been around for a while. I think everybody kind of feels comfortable with the product. But they're like leveling up a little bit and they're going to increase a lot of the capabilities around their multilingual options when it comes to transcription and interpretation and being able to be able to do all that translation stuff. So it's not only going to be there, but they're increasing the number of languages and they're also increasing the ability to everything kind of be live and on the fly. So like I loved at the beginning of your session that you showed how to go to the meetings and use the transcription and be able to use it. So like it's going to get to a point that no matter what meeting you're on, you're just going to be able to pick what language you want to read in, and it'll
Yeah.
just pick it up on the fly and it'll be able
Yeah.
to deliver that to you.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, a
all
lot of
of
these are
that,
there, as we said, a lot of these are there, but it's just taking it to the next level, I suppose. Because I'm kind of
right.
going, a lot of people will be going, but we got that. I'm a little confused. Why are we talking about it?
Right. Yeah. No, it's just going to get better, faster, more languages. The translation in and of itself, the algorithms that are behind the translation are getting cleaner. They're getting smoother. They're getting better. And then in addition, all of that stuff is going to get faster, easier, and it's going to get on the fly. And then as you see on the very bottom, that intelligent meeting recap. So as you start to use the Teams premium features with the Copilot over the top,
And
which in
that's
my
the
opinion
Teams
is
Premium.
magic.
We need to remember it's the Teams
Hmm.
Premium. So that's the paid side of it, guys. So to take that into consideration, it's not like it's coming to just standard Teams. There are certain components that if you paid for it, these are the extra things. Yeah.
It and it's one of the few licenses that I even say, I don't say this all the time, worth every penny. Like the Teams
Yes.
premium
Oh,
license,
yeah.
worth
Yeah.
every penny.
Yeah.
Because of things like this, right? These
Yeah.
kind of features are crazy amazing. But not only is it going to give you a meeting recording, not only are you going to be able to use Copilot to come in and say, hey, catch me up and give me this recap,
Mm,
but you
mm.
can also, at when all of this completely rolls out, you'll be able to just pick whatever language.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I was watching it and some of the voiceover of in your language when someone was speaking another language. So it's a bit like the you'd have someone doing sign language, so you can make it that it's quieter and someone's noisier and those sorts of things. And the fact that it just does it is just like, oh, nice. I like that.
And just I'm going to say this one time and then I won't say it every slide, but just so
Yep.
notice like on that one it says available next year. So just
Yes.
remember guys, Ignite and Book of News for the most part is Microsoft telling you what's coming over
Mm-hmm.
the next 6 to 12 months. So
Yep.
you might see parts and pieces, you might not see all of it. Just know that this is the stuff that's headed your way.
Yeah, there was a lot of it that was coming January. That's, private preview rolling out now, available, before the end of the year, available by January. There was plenty of that was over the kind of the next 2 to 3 months. But there was also, next year or summer or, next year just generally, 2025, and you kind of go, wonder if it'll even hit. How many times have we had announcements go out there at previous conferences and you've never seen it? No, it's kind of going, that didn't quite work. It went into beta and then everything sort of went a little bit, or it's not that we've not seen it. It's even that's had a complete name change. It's had a real reslant and it's released as something that's got that in it, but it's rolled up into something much bigger as they start to shift it as well. So take that into consideration. And I'm not saying that you should take any of this as a grain of salt, because a good portion of it is already out there. We're already playing around with it at length. Okay. So as MVPs, we tend to play around with a lot of this stuff, and we haven't been able to talk about it. Things that we were, found out even at the summit back in March, where you go, "Oh, I like that." When are we getting it? When are we getting it? When are we getting it? So it's always nice to sometimes talk about it. All right, let's have a look. Next.
So Microsoft Teams, a new feature called Storyline Integration, and we're already seeing, spots of this out too. But if you think about what was Yammer and then became Viva Engage, and you think about that, kind of embedded directly into Teams, where you're able to go in there and you're able to follow people and keep up with their information, and leaders can push announcements out and things like that. That's this storyline integration, is kind of bringing all of that together into a place where you can go to Teams, and not only can you chat, not only can you follow conversations around a specific topic or project, but you can also see when your leaders post announcements, or if your manager posts an announcement, things like that, you can follow that storyline.
And that also is, storyline is part of the extra Viva licensing, by the way. So take that also into consideration. Does that, as a feature, push you to want to have Viva as a license? Maybe not, but it's a lot of other things that also come with the Viva license. But I know storyline, it has been of interest across some businesses, and with others, they kind of go, I'm not paying all the extra just for storyline. So it's one of those
It's
ones.
not the most popular feature, I'm not going to lie, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's still cool.
It is. It is. Exactly. And it depends on your business too, and whether you've got a lot of those kind of stories that you want to be pushing out there. Human interest stories, like I was working, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and I got to see, and as part of programs and working alongside Microsoft, Cochlear had some amazing stories around people's journey to hearing. And, when you've got a lot of those really amazing human interest type stories, then things like this become really enriching inside a business. Now, I'm not saying that, there's lots of businesses that have all of those stories and maybe don't use this, but it can really surface things for you.
I also think about, so if you think at a very large organization where your leadership team, your executives really want to be able to connect with the day-to-day
Yes.
people,
Yep.
and things get lost in email. And I understand,
Yep.
like, a lot of, they might have like a leadership corner on an intranet page or something like that. But this, this is really designed to be, and I'm going to say this out loud. We couldn't say this 10 or 15 years ago, but that internal social media where it's all
Yes.
contained inside, but you have that true social media feel where your
Mm.
leaders can actually post things. You can follow it and react with it as much as they want you to be able to, but it's staying within the safety of your organization.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff there, and we'll leave it up to you to watch and make a decision on that one. So next, what have we got?
Yeah, so the next is summarizing content of files in shared chat. And so the thing to catch with here is right now it summarizes, Teams does summarize content around the files that are shared within the conversation history. So like if you're within a team, but when we go off to chat, the files that are stored in chat are technically stored in your OneDrive. So it's very difficult to get that information and bring it kind of in the big picture. And so one of the things that is happening is all of that content is kind of getting pulled in to the same place to be able to to then, do something with that information.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And look, there's that summarizing and being able to bring it all in and have it in the one-on-one group chats. I think the one of the things that when it comes to the chat side of things, it's like people aren't putting their files in the right place. They're doing it in individual chats and then it's in their OneDrive, and because it's in their me space, they leave and so does the file. So I'm a little torn on it. Like, yes, I think it's important. Yes, we kind of need it in there in terms of the summary and Copilot and all that fun stuff. But at the same time, we need to be educating as to where files really should be, and they should be more over in SharePoints. And we have reasons why we share on the individual space. And it's good that it's coming in, but we also need to tell people where to put it.
Well, the nice thing about this too is it's going to maintain all of that security, and that's the hard part right now, right? So
Yes,
if you're
yes,
within a
yeah,
team, you know that
yeah,
if you're in the team, you're supposed to be there. But when you get
yeah,
to chats, all of a sudden files kind of get all over the place and all of that access gets kind of wonky. And I think the idea is that eventually, you'll kind of have one pane of glass to see everything through, but you'll
yeah,
still have the access to everything you're supposed to have. So
yeah.
this is just, so you can see this is previewing next year. But it's the idea of basically bringing all those one-on-one and group chat files into the other
Yeah.
things that are happening in the rest of Teams.
Cross fingers. No.
This is something a lot of people are really excited about is
Yes.
so when you're screen sharing things, the way that the system has always seen it is that it's just like a picture, right? And you can't really do anything with it. It's all just a flat image. And one of the things that is coming is the ability for Copilot to be able to analyze the things that you're sharing in a Teams meeting and then be able to use that in information later. So if you want to do a summary or you want to look up something or you want to get something, all of that stuff will be digitized and OCR'd and then grabbed and put into the index so that you then have that information later.
Yeah. In the video, they show where it's, someone's got that whiteboard where you kind of become like the ghost see through, and they handwritten notes as well. And it was able to actually take the content from the screen and even put it and ask to then put it into a table as well, what was on the screen just based on raw notes. Quite impressive when you think about how far we've come from even being able to do whiteboarding inside a Teams meeting. It'll be interesting to see, it's like when you're presenting on the screen, is it stuff that has to be loaded into Teams, like in PowerPoint Live View or Excel or, Whiteboard, and that's things that are inside Teams? Or is it if you just share your screen? There was a few things that I'm kind of going, I'm not too sure yet what it is it's going to be able to grab or how it's going to necessarily grab it yet. If you know anything on that, but I couldn't see anything that would actually really tell us yet.
No, I don't think they've really given any of the specific details technically for some of
No.
that. But I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
tell you, when you think about it, think about the idea of being on these calls and how often does somebody take a photo of a
yeah,
slide, screenshot a slide, write,
yeah.
furiously
Trying to
taking
get some
notes about a
information.
slide. And to
Yeah.
think that you won't have to do that anymore because when you present all of that content will already have been gotten so that you can then go back and ask questions of it later without you having to literally, keep track of every single slide that's got that information. I think that's just amazing.
Yeah. The fact that it was, starting to bring in things that were in chat that were talked about, we're getting that coming through, let alone the audio transcript and looking at the two. It's great to see some of these changes because a meeting is way more than just what you verbally said.
Mhm.
There's so many other components that actually come into play. So this one is rather exciting, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions that come around security and things that you've shown, and I don't want it in. How do I stop it from putting things in? It's fine if it's the transcript, but I'm going to also be showing a couple of slides that are, highly confidential on the screen, and it's fine if we're kind of talking, but not so fun. I can see it now. It's going to
I
get a really interesting space, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what's going to come with this because when you think about everything, like you said, from sensitive information all the way to copywritten or trademarked information, to licensed information. Just like we
Yes.
were kind of chatting earlier in the video about, being a little bit nervous about having licensed music playing in the background because it can
Mm-hmm.
cause, things to get picked up and you can actually get in trouble for that. Well, imagine now this is going to be on your screen share and you're going to be recording that information. And so, I think a whole new level right now, I can show you stuff, but as long as I don't send you the PowerPoint, maybe I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the
Yeah.
case once
That's
it can
it.
do all
There's
this.
that IP side of things is something I think that's really going to come up as a bit of a hot topic because, when I do a meeting, I might go, I'll give you an idea of what it is that I can actually do, for example, but I don't necessarily want them to have it. And those are the sorts of things that I kind of go, what's that going to look like? Because a lot of the times it's my clients that are creating the meetings to send to me to bring in, not me creating that to them. So often I can't use Copilot, and they're the ones that have got the Copilot. And I don't want to be asking my clients, can you please turn off Copilot and transcript? Because I've got, IP I'm going to show you. It's not a great way to start a meeting with a potential new client.
And GCC
Anyway.
is not going to want any of that anyways.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the GCC space. It will be interesting. Okay, we've got lots to go through. Here we go. Next.
So Copilot in Excel. There's all kinds of cool stuff coming in Excel. If you guys didn't hear the Python announcement, you're going to be able to basically use Copilot for Python. But these task-tailored spreadsheet templates, see if you can say that 10 times fast,
Good one.
is so think about the idea of creating templates. You can create templates in Excel that Copilot will be able to spin up just by asking it, hey, Copilot, please make me a spreadsheet that can do this. And here's the information that I want you to pull from. And it'll actually use all of that to generate a spreadsheet that you can then use for certain things. So examples are like maybe a project budget or an inventory tracker, things that you already do on a regular basis. The difference is you will not need to go find the template, do a file save as, all of that. You can just simply ask Copilot, hey, I need an inventory tracker, I need a new project budget made, and point it towards the project. It'll grab all the information, throw it in a spreadsheet, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and the fact that you can actually go, I want a template on this, one, it'll find, but then you can customize it as well. And I need, and I need, and I need, and can we build it off? And can we have this information in it? The fact that you can take it to a whole new level to really customize your own template is rather exciting.
Yeah, they worked really hard in the Excel space. There's a lot of really
They
cool stuff
really
coming.
have. They really have. They've taken it a long way from where it is. And I know that for some, they're kind of feeling like it's not going far enough because they're heavy duty Excel users. But for the average user who really struggles with Excel, it's really lifting some of that usage.
Yeah. So PowerPoint, always a fan favorite. If you have not played with Copilot and PowerPoint yet, you are totally missing out, especially if you make presentations on a regular basis. The idea of just being able to go to PowerPoint and say, make me a presentation about, and feeding the information, it's just going to save you so much time. But this is only going to get better, right? So inside of PowerPoint, this narrative builder based on a file is basically, instead of just taking an information or outlining out of a file and copy and pasting it into PowerPoint, which is a lot of what it does now, it'll actually take that and convert it into more narrative based presentations with higher quality in them. You'll be able to translate things using Copilot. So you can just say, hey, Copilot, can you translate this PowerPoint presentation into a different language? And it'll just do it. And then also images will get a lot easier just across the board in some of the newer things that are coming in Copilot. But it'll be a little bit easier to use from Copilot because Copilot will know where to find those images.
Yeah. What I particularly like it's that create a file from, create a presentation from a particular file. And when it builds out you get your little narrative screen box, you can actually go back into it and go, and in the middle of here, where you can't do it now, you can go back into the middle and go, and in here, use this document to put in some extra in the middle of your file. In the past, it was just, choose the file maybe you might choose a couple, but the fact that you can go back in and literally go in here, I now want you to do this or put this in here and build it before you press go. That's the stuff that's just great. And then, when we get down a little further, that, that asset library, I get it all the time. There's so many businesses like, well, we spend a fortune on getting a whole brand asset for photos with professional photography, or these are our sites right across the globe with a photo of our buildings or a photo of our people for that particular. It's like I want them to be pulling specifically from it. So to see that flow in is great. I mean, Templify, if you're using Templify for your templates, it is not a cheap solution. It is a rather actually crazy expensive solution, but an amazing solution as the same time that can be used for quite large global businesses that take it on. So if you're paying that kind of money, you'd want to make sure that it's pulling from the right templates that sit in. So the fact that that's actually coming into play, and I reckon we're going to see some more of that as well as it starts to build over time. So there was a few things there that I really did like, and PowerPoint has had a lot of big shifts and changes over the last year. It's got a little harder to work with in some respects, easier in others. There are definitely some challenges there.
Yeah, and if you're not using organizational asset libraries within SharePoint, you really should be. That's
Yeah.
something we set up for our clients, and it makes a huge difference when you're using those templates and those images within
Yeah.
your organization.
Yeah, they really are. Now, Outlook. Now, this is one of the ones that I'm kind of going, yay! Because I get so many people ask me about, but can it do this in Outlook or can it do that? It's like, well, no, it's really just summarizing emails and helping you to draft and kind of coach, and that's about it. But this one, go.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of great stuff coming in Outlook. In fact, I'm on some of the preview stuff, and it already, it's already getting better. And basically, like you said, it used to be that you could only like summarize or do
Mm.
basic drafts, and now you're going to be able to use it to go out and, for example, hey, Copilot, I need you to schedule me focus time. Copilot, I need you to schedule me a meeting with, and then tell it who to schedule a meeting with, and it will go out and it will find the next available time that you guys are available and book a meeting on your calendar with all of the right information. It will also, you can see down here, it'll draft your meeting agenda for you.
You see, that one is just like, yay! I'm
Yes,
like
because
going,
you can say
finally,
schedule me a meeting and draft my agenda. It'll do
yeah.
everything for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that, the drafting, because so many meetings just don't have you don't know what the focus is. You're kind of going, why are we getting together? And especially for senior leaders, I remember doing training back when, and all of the senior leaders were specifically told that if there was not an agenda, you decline the meeting. It's as simple as that. And it was training that I did across the board in terms of OneNote and smarter meetings. And it's just like all the execs and all from a particular level of manager up, they just went, you will decline every single meeting that doesn't have an agenda. So having these sorts of things come into play, cross fingers, we'll start to see some better
I think
meetings
I've been
being
through
run.
that training.
Decline, decline, decline. So yeah, looking forward to some of that.
So Microsoft Places. So Microsoft Places is the idea of being able to use Copilot and use your calendar to know where people are. So they could be at different locations, so like different offices. They could be working at home. They could be working at a specific remote location. But basically, the whole idea is that Microsoft Places is going to track all of this. And then what you can do is you can use Copilot to schedule meetings knowing where everybody's at. So let's say, for example, we happen to have an in-office day, and that's our highest day that we know everybody's going to be in the office. You could say, hey, Copilot, can you please schedule a meeting for a day that everybody's going to be in the office, or the most people be in the office? And it will be able to go, and based on knowing where people are at based on their schedule and based on places, it will know, okay, the most number of people are going to be in the office on this day at this time, and cross-reference with their availability and be able to help you decide when to do that. They'll also be able to manage room bookings, because sometimes you're going to do a hybrid meeting and you know how many people are going to be in the office and how many people are going to be attending remotely. And so the idea with Places is that Copilot will be able to tell you this is the size of room that you will need based on where everybody is working.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And if we haven't actually said it, really, you kind of go, Microsoft Ignite was a Copilot conference.
You think?
Yeah, it was very much focused on the AI, everyone. But I mean, this one is, if you've got Microsoft Places, this is actually a rather exciting one because,
Hmm.
and I mean, I know that there are a lot of organizations that don't have it because Places isn't exactly the cheapest solution, plus all of the technology that you require to go on all of the rooms. And as you walk onto the floor and things like that, there's, that all assistive devices, that endpoints that are often required to really make sometimes the use of Places to its nth degree, around, is not exactly the cheapest solution. And usually it's as people are moving offices and they're redoing, and with a lot of the hybrid now, it's certainly made a difference. Um, if you've got a workspace that's where you don't have assigned seating, and I'll
Yeah.
think of the
Oh, yeah,
word.
yeah. Like the open floor plans where you've got like the
Open for
hotel cubes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the word. It really is one of those days today.
It's
But,
fine. That's
if you
fine.
have that, then yeah, that's it. If you have that, then it's certainly one of the spaces that
I
I would be playing in.
I feel
Yeah.
like this is, like on Star Trek where they like click the little thing and they say where is so and so or where are all
Where
the
is that? Where
people?
are
Like I
they?
feel
Yeah,
like
that's it.
places is the beginning of the ability to do that.
Yeah, Skynet, it's happening. So
So we
I
don't get a lot of love in the admin center, but this one is a really big one because admin takes forever and ever and ever for them to update anything. So Copilot, all the updates for Copilot in the M365 administration centers are basically going to make it so that instead of having to know what button to push in the admin center, you can simply ask Copilot to do it for you. And the idea here is that there's going to be this Copilot control system where you can basically say, hey, Copilot, I need to manage this policy. I need to change the setting. I need to update, can you show me our security score? Things like that. And it's going to be able
Yeah.
to allow you to work in an admin center in a way where you don't have to know where every single button and every single PowerShell script is.
Yeah. I think, although we don't in our space necessarily play so much in the admin side of things, the reason I still wanted this in here, because there is a whole heap in there in regards to the insights, because there's lots actually happening across Copilot for insights to be able to do all this decision making off the back of it, and being able to speak to IT, and or if you've got your reporting permissions around the user experience, if you've got a user experience reporting permission, then there's a lot that's actually going on in there to be able to help and support, which leads us to some of this around, Copilot analytics, and we're going to discuss this bit here. So there's a little bit here to be able to talk about. Now it's only if you've got Copilot though.
Yeah, so if you have Copilot licenses that you've rolled out in your organization, basically Copilot Analytics ate Viva Insights,
Yeah,
like
yeah. But the
consumed
cool
it.
part is, I think what I loved was that if you get a Copilot license, then you don't have to pay for the workplace Viva Insights license, like that much higher cost, because you can get your Viva Insights, which is the out of the box that comes with 365 if you've got like an E3 license. But if you want to get all the bigger extra plans where you're trying to build a program to measure against, for example, you needed to go to what we used to call a workplace, that insight side of things. So that now comes as part of the Copilot analytics automatically with the license. And it's all kind of folded into it. So it's not really the Viva Insights anymore. All that folds in, but it's still the Viva Insights and the higher level if you don't have a license, basically.
Yeah, and the really nice thing about it is once you've rolled those licenses out, you want to know who's using them, how often are they
Yes.
using them, how are they using them? Because from a change management perspective and adoption perspective, specifically in this group, you want to know like what's the ROI? Are these licenses
Yeah.
that we're paying for being used? And the Copilot Analytics platform is fantastic for
It's
letting you
amazing,
know
isn't it?
all of
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. And it's like, where are they actually doing it, for example, in terms of the prompts? not just where are they doing it, but where are they doing the prompts, whether it's in Word or PowerPoint or Excel. And then what are the prompts that they're doing? You can start to get a bit of an idea of if there's consistent type prompts as well. It will even start to give you some of that in the analytics. So there's some really great stuff that's happening in there. And don't forget, coming up next week is that the measurement playbook session that's actually going to be run next week that will kind of have a look a little bit about this. But until this is sort of all finalized as well, I'm sure there'll be more coming because it's not starting till early 25. But they will talk about it. I think you'll find they'll talk about it. But there's lots in the out of the box.
So Copilot Prompt Gallery, aka used to be called, like 5 seconds ago, it was Copilot Labs. It was Copilot Labs for approximately 5 minutes, and then it turns to Copilot Prompt Gallery. But the idea behind the Copilot Prompt Gallery is because everything in AI is driven by prompts, and so there has to be a collection of frequently used prompts, prompts that work well, prompts that are going to be successful for you. And I do think, in all honesty, this is one of the things I think Microsoft is doing very, very well, is understanding that prompts are at the heart of everything. And instead of forcing people to kind of figure out what they need to do, they're instead kind of creating these boundaries and saying, here's the prompts that we know are going to get you where you want to go fast. They're going to get you accomplished, and they're going to do it in a way that's not going to cause you a lot of problems. So the Copilot Prompt Gallery is a collection of prompts that you can use to then generate actions using Copilot.
Yeah. I think, one of the things about this is, when I'm running the promptathons, it's amazing how many people don't actually realize that there's even this prompt gallery there where they're already pre-done, tied, tested, and will work. So go and use them, because it's just like there's so many of them there, guys. Just go click on a button and see what it actually does. If you're not quite sure, it'll give you a bit some of the results. Just have a play and try and get used to what is the wording and what are those mega verbs that generally tend to get used. I mean, create is one of the ones that are as a mega verb, for example. There is a whole heap that are in there, and there are a lot of verbs that you could use in terms of your own prompting, but it gives you some ideas at least of the sort of things that they're bringing to the party in just generic everyday Microsoft 365 across all of the apps. I do like it. But the fact that you can actually have ones that you can save and put in there for your business, and you've got the trending ones, and seeing it come to the top will start to give you a bit of an idea of where your focus is in the business. Even as a change agent, you might want to go and keep an eye out. What have been really popular ones? What is it that people are trying to do, so that you can really get good scenario maybe around that prompt? We can take it further, because a prompt is often quite simple when it comes to the gallery, and you can actually go from here, where it's kind of little and simple, and take it to here, and even put all sorts of stuff and automation and things around it as well. So if it's a really popular one, it's like, well, how can we go a little further with it?
When I think about, people use, you bookmark websites, we've got to tabs and teams, we pin chats and teams, things like that. We're going to get there with prompts too, where people are going to bookmark, share. And like this says, eventually you'll be able to stay up with, what are the top prompts that people are using.
Yeah. Okay, radio. Aha.
All right.
Now, I asked you to put this in because I've kind of going, can you help us to understand the difference between agents and if I've got Copilot Studio, and just untangle it a little before we start to go into the next piece, because some of the stuff that's coming is amazing because it's really simple and it's meant for the end user to actually be able to do a little bit out of the box. But if they don't even understand some of this, it makes it really hard to know what's going on.
No, it's a great question. And you guys hear the word Copilot all the time. And so you're like, wait, why am I hearing the word Copilot again? And what's the difference between Copilot and Copilot Studio and a custom Copilot? And it's like, okay, too many Copilots. So an agent is the word that Microsoft is now using to define a customized Copilot. So what happens is you've got Copilot, the tool, and then you've got Copilot Studio, and Copilot Studio is where you go to make more Copilots. But inside of there, that gets to be too many Copilots, right? So what they've said is okay, when you go to Copilot Studio, you're going to be making an agent. And an agent is an application that allows you to take those prompts and do things. And you might know this from a while back because it's basically the same as a bot. So if you go to a bot, like a customer service bot, say you go to a website, you go to look up a quote on something, and the little thing pops up on there and it says, "Hi, can I help you today? Do you have any questions?" That's a
Always.
bot, right? So now in Copilot, what you can do is you can make your own bot Copilot agent. And so agents are simply customized bots within the Copilot framework for you to decide what each of those Copilots should do when your users come and ask them predefined questions.
Yep. So Mel's actually asked, yeah, she's so thing, is there such things as Copilot agent like web parts, or do we need to teach everyone to look for the icon at the top, right of the page?
I think the answer that I'm going to give you is anything is possible. I do know right now the agents that are in SharePoint, are positioned at the top of the page, but
Yeah.
as we know, most stuff in SharePoint is able to be moved around the page. And also one of the announcements, which we're not covering here, is on the SharePoint pages. We do have more flexible pages coming. So
Yeah.
I promise you, there's going to be room for that to eventually happen.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'm going to just bring something up on the screen. So in terms of Copilot, that might even show, what some of the agents that are actually kind of out there. So here is kind of Copilot, and you've got, get agents. So, and there's lots of pre-built agents that you can actually drop in. And there's ones that you can then build yourself to drop in to be able to point to information. So as some of these, if I go to productivity, for example, there's a resume builder. So for example, there's this resume coach kind of thing to be able to help you. So lots of businesses are actually building out all these kind of, effectively bots, is my understanding, to try and help plug their information to your information to surface stuff. Is probably the easiest way to
And these can
explain
be
for
added
me.
into Teams, they can be added into SharePoint, they can be added
Yep.
into Copilot, they can be added into websites, they can be added into Power Page portals. But yeah, so agents are basically a custom piece of Copilot that does what you want it to do. So there's these out of the box agents in Microsoft
Which is
365,
which I just kind of showed, some of those
yep,
out of the box ones. Yep.
which is exactly what Kirsty was just showing us. And basically, they are designed for specific tasks. They are very simple. So think about this like an out of the box approval workflow. If you expect an out of the box approval workflow to do anything beyond an approval, it will not do it. That's all it will do. If you want a custom workflow, you have to go to Power Automate. You have to go to a different tool. You will not get a custom workflow out of the create an approval workflow button. That's how agents work. Agents are do this one thing, and that's the only thing I've ever been designed to do in my whole life, and I won't do anything else unless I want to customize it with a tool.
Yep. No. And those agents are even things like plugging into your HR system to create a leave request, for example. And that's really all it does, is the leave request, but you might have other things that you could put in as well.
Much like we have like we call those baby workflows, right? One, 2, 3 step workflows. These are 1, 2, 3 step bots.
Yep. Okay.
So this is just an image of
Yes.
basically
Yep.
once you make those agents, now they can be put into Teams or SharePoint. And this right here is the idea of an agent that has been created to get information from SharePoint, but the agent itself is in Teams. So I can now go to Teams, I can ask it to do something, it's going to pull up this agent, and the agent has already been set up and configured to access the content in a specific SharePoint site. And so this is a SharePoint agent that is living in Teams, for somebody to be able to go ask it a question about a SharePoint site without having to go to the SharePoint site, without having to click on the Files tab, without having to do anything else.
And this is the SharePoint agents, not the Copilot agents, correct?
Right. This is
Different.
it's a Copilot agent that has access to SharePoint and is
Right.
embedded in Teams.
Okay, right. Just so that we got it clear to try and help out. Because I'm going to hang on a second. Is it the Copilot one or is it the SharePoint one? Is it both? Is it
It's a
in
little
terms of
of both.
I know. So can you just, there's my question. So can you actually go to the Copilot and ask it, or is it has to be in the chat in Teams and asking it? Do
Either.
we know? Either.
Either.
Okay.
Yes.
Rightio. Okay.
Yes. So here's another image of the agents in SharePoint. And basically, so that's kind of what it looks like when it's in Teams and you're asking it questions. To create it, it's really easy. All you have to do is up on your list or library bar, just like you would create an alert or create an approval workflow. There's now a create an agent button. And then what will happen is inside of SharePoint, you can see the little Copilot icon, and it's going to tell you the agents that you already have set up for this particular SharePoint site.
Nice. Okay.
And all of these kind of are similar. So think about, much like I said, these are 1 or 2, 3-step agents as opposed to workflows. This employee self-service agent is the idea, like Kirsty mentioned earlier. Maybe I want it to do a really simple task, like be able for people to turn in their leave requests, or request a new laptop, or maybe request a mouse. I've done demos for years and years and years of why you should automate the process to request a new mouse, because it costs so much money if it's a manual process, that if somebody can simply fill out a form and somebody can reply to that form, that it's so much faster and more automated. Well, now we don't even need any of that. We can simply have a self-service agent where somebody can say in chat, I need a new mouse, and the agent will be like, sure, no problem. It'll take that information. It'll ask you a few questions. It'll send it off to the right person. And then everything after that will be automated. So the self-service agent idea is something very, very simple that accomplishes very specific tasks that can be pulled into Teams or go directly to it through Copilot.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. I like it.
I know, right?
Speed things up.
Some of the other agents that have already been announced they're not here quite yet, but they're on their way, is things like the facilitator agent. So in Teams meetings and chats, this is the idea not just of I can go back and recap or summarize a meeting, but as the meeting is happening, it will continue to take those notes in real time and give me updates about what's happening, because it's like actually going on right now, like if I had an actual meeting note taker sitting next to me. Same thing for interpreter agent. Is the idea is that there's a person that is an agent that is sitting next to me doing real-time interpretation right now up to 9 languages, but basically they can actually speak and listen in whatever language they want, and it will simulate a real live person doing an actual live translation. And then the last one, and in my opinion, the most exciting one, is the project manager agent, because this is where we really struggle in general. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that have no idea how in the heck they're going to get the information, create the tasks, and do the work. Well, wouldn't it be nice if you had an agent that could take all that and create all that for you? So this agent can create your tasks, update your tasks, oversee the project, send out reminders, and when it's all done, create the reports that then you can provide back to your manager, client, whoever it is that you're trying to do to get that information to.
I wish it would just all do my work for me as well off the back of it. So then, I can just go, oh, it's done. Mind you, with Copilot, there's a lot that just can get done, and I could just check on it. We're getting faster.
I'm excited about it. I mean, like, I don't know, but I'm excited about it coming.
And hopefully not that we've got a date necessarily. That one's a bit of a bigger one and going to take a little bit more and probably a little harder before it rolls out, but we'll see.
But they said it out loud and they wrote it in the book.
Oh, every time we had that, however many years that they've said it out loud, cross fingers. We'll keep watching them on that one. Yeah, Shari says she dreads project update meetings, waste of everyone's time. I know, because people don't know how to do project meetings well. They don't understand how to actually even go in and do it, and what does a smarter meeting even look like. So these
Yes.
stand-ups that just go from person to person, and you say the same thing 3 times a week, or it's like, seriously, stop wasting my time where you tune out what everyone else is doing and you just wait for your piece. It's like, oh my Lord. So let's flip those meetings on their head. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic.
That's a
Okay.
different session.
It is a very
But I
different
agree.
session.
So Copilot Studio, like I mentioned, is an application. It's a tool that allows you to create agents slash Copilot slash bots. So Copilot Studio is the tool to make new baby Copilot agents. And it's been around for a while. It was previously known as Power Virtual Agents. It grew up into Copilot Studio. It's been around for long enough that I've been playing with it for a few years. But there's some really cool new features that are coming to it. So first of all, you're going to be able to upload images to Copilot, which is really exciting because images have kind of been, they've been holding off for that. But what's going to happen is it's going to be able to take those images and it's going to be able to look at them, analyze them, and then be able to talk to you about those images, which is really neat. You're also going to start getting some voice enablement. So remember I mentioned that agent with the translation feature where you could actually have somebody sitting there interpreting it with a voice. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to start asking questions and it will answer you with a voice. So don't just think bots that you can chat with, but bots that it could say, do you want to talk to somebody? And you say yes, and it says, okay, how can I help you? So voice-enabled agents, they have been around for a while, but now we're going to have them all within the Copilot Studio element, so we'll be able to add those to agents. And then this advanced knowledge tooling, basically what's going to happen is, so right now, Copilot Studio agents are a mix of two different things. They're the old school bot where you had to know what the question and answer were going to be. Because if you had to know what people are going to ask, so you knew how to answer it when they asked that question manually. With generative AI, now generative AI can open that wide up into, for the most part, kind of understanding what people are questioning, and for the most part, give them an answer around it. What we want to be able to do is when somebody asks a very specific question, we want not just those things, but we really want to fine tune. We want it to be able to think for itself and give a consensual answer, but we maybe want to put some boundaries around that to make sure that the answer it's giving is the correct answer. So this advanced knowledge tuning is the ability for us to fine tune what's happening with the answers that are coming out of generative AI.
Yeah, yeah. That the upload the images is something that, when we consider how many applications that are out there to scan stuff in and try and, just even analyze it to put it into a system. But the fact that you can actually use Copilot to then be able to do stuff around it. I mean, I don't like using paper, so I'm often taking, photos of things and, all my receipts and, that bookkeeping side of it, just taking a photo and pushing it into
Handwritten
systems. And
notes.
then it can, yeah, handwritten notes. Not that I do handwritten notes. It's very rare. I don't think the last time I wrote a handwritten note. But, all those sorts of things are quite impressive in terms of the way that it's going. And I know that a lot of this is not necessarily the cheapest of solutions, but the time savings, it gives back 100-fold. And people don't believe that. It's just, you only have to start seeing all of this to really start to understand where it can get back. And I know there are so many licenses out there and they're just not using it. So it's like, guys, there's so much that you can do in this space and stuff that's coming. It's like, you need to get into it and get people in skills. So,
Sorry, we're
okay.
having our own little fun conversation over here in
Oh,
the
yeah.
chat. I totally, so
Yeah,
it's
it's just like drive through, go through the McDonald's drive through. And it's like the phone prompt, hell, where I ended up screaming, I want a person. I know. It certainly has happened to me on many occasions. It's just like, answering questions. Okay, let's
so
have a look
Copilot
at Copilot
Actions.
Actions.
Actions
This
is
one I
original.
loved. I loved Copilot Actions because it really sits in that end user space in terms of doing things with actions. And I'm going, let's just see how easy it is. This one was like, woo.
So I want to break this down for you guys because I believe that informed users are better users.
Yes.
And actions are templates for prompts. And so if you understand that an action is just a prompt template, it makes life a lot easier. So instead of having to know that I need to ask for a specific prompt to get something to work, an action is going to serve that up to me and say, here is the template of the words in the prompt that you need to use to make a specific thing happen. So Copilot Actions is the idea that it's going to serve us up things that are easy for us to be able to then do, that will do the action that we want it to do, and give us the ability to create templates. Not, it'll have templates that are pre-created, and also create templates of things that have worked for us in the past. So if in general, I have a really nice prompt template that I use to write an email report, or maybe I have to do a specific type of email that I then, I did a presentation for the ILTA, which is the legal association here in the States, that gives best practices for law firms. And one of the things that they have to do is maybe they have to respond with a memorandum of understanding for every single email that they send back, just to track that properly within the system. That's something that from a template perspective, you would get real tired of doing over and over and over and over. But if I know what the parts and pieces are to that, I can create a prompt template. I can assign it to an action. And every single time I go into my email, I can tell Copilot, create an MOU on this information, hit enter, and it'll just write that email for me.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a few things there that I was like, hello. I think of all the things like those Word documents that as a template where you have here are the fields and the pop up and fill out the different fields and then it just drops it all in for you. Or, even using your actions over in PowerPoint where you just do a Control 1 and it will do mark it as done, move it into this box, reply or forward it, or, those kind of press the button. And then that's that automation that took it a lot of this to then the next level to connect all of those applications together to do those sorts of things in automation. But now that was still a bit of a manual process, which this is also then taking it into serving it up to you. So there's that bit of difference. Instead of going to find it, it's now serving it up. So it's interesting the way that it's actually going. I'm looking forward to this one and seeing how it all tracks for businesses.
Like prompt macros.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. It's just like so I'm kind of going, how do we articulate these? But yeah, it's like you've got a macro that kind of tells you fill in this, and accept it out. It's a Copilot macro saying fill in this. Okay.
So
OneNote.
if you haven't
I do
played
love
with OneNote or Whiteboard with Copilot for a while, this is actually a really cool feature. It is currently in preview, so depending on if you've got preview set up or not, you should already be able to do this. But think about the idea of being able to take information in an affinity diagram and taking all of that information and seeing it. And so let's say, for example, you have a whole bunch of handwritten notes, but you want to see it in a physical format like you would on a bunch of post-it notes or on some sort of an organized board. Copilot can take that information and it can turn it around and it can create what's called multimodal notes. And it's the idea of taking all that information and putting it up. So it's almost like a reverse affinity diagram.
Yeah, I really liked this one. I mean, the one thing, just, take note for now, I've had it just recently in promptathons where people going, you can copy a link to the page, but you can't put that link to the page into Copilot to go, can you do something and bring my notes from my meeting from OneNote over into this Word or this PowerPoint or this, that is not there yet. And, need to kind of have a chat with the team and going, God, people are trying to do this, guys, if people are taking OneNote notes. So they're certainly thinking about it and thinking outside the box as to how you can use OneNote, because I've had quite a few people with Loop coming into play going, is OneNote dead? It's like, no, it's really not. And it's you still use quite extensively. And and a lot of the times it's that, where do you go to create something in particular? Because I had people trying to create things in Word, for example. It's like, well, that's not in that ideation type space. It's not in that creative. It's like, that's where you go to OneNote, Whiteboard, or Loop, because they're the places that you go to take those kind of, notes and I need to build out a blog, or there are certain places you need to go and people need to understand where to go to do those type of capabilities. So seeing some of this coming into play is exciting.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And it's really neat to watch too, just to see it go from being kind of boring on a page to having this kind of multimodal experience.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up this page and get it out of the way so that it's not accidentally being tapped on for whatever reason. Okay,
All right.
pages.
So somebody asked about like web party type things. Um, so Copilot Pages is basically going to allow Copilot to find things within the page, right? So think about like if you think about SharePoint pages and you think about getting that content and being able to do stuff with it, Copilot Pages, think about like smart pages, right?
Mm.
And so they're going to be able to do more with the Copilot application and be able to this word grounding. So if you guys don't know the word grounding, definitely pay attention to that. The idea down here is this prompts grounded on updated page content. Grounding is where it's getting its source from to be able to take action on the prompt.
Yep. Okay, so in this one, I mean, I personally loving Copilot Pages. The fact that you can actually do it directly off a prompt and push it into Pages and then start to work on it and then share it. It is, and if people aren't aware, it's actually a loop file that sits in a user SharePoint kind of repository. It's actually your own SharePoint repository, which is confusing lots of people as to where it's kind of sitting or what it looks like in the back end, or where do I find this? Because once it's out there, it's like, well, where is it gone? If I need to come back to it, and so there is a little bit about it, but those are rich artifacts that go in because they're already there in a loop page. When you think about the things that you can do in loop, it's just now kind of flowing over from loop into Copilot Pages because you can do it in loop. So it's just now starting to surface all of that, which is what I really love because there's some amazing features that are sitting in loop. So to see it starting to come in and to extend on it in Pages is awesome.
You're going to start being able to do things in pages that you really never realized. Like you didn't know you needed it until you can start seeing that you can do it. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
this is going to break people out of a mold that they've been in for 20 years. Like the minute that they
Yeah.
realize how flexible this is, they're going to be like, why were we even doing it the other way?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an interesting one. It's one we'll be watching heavily. So Matt, everyone is getting us through I know the what's new
That's
to
like two
Ignite.
little
We actually
sections.
uh, there's so much content, there's so much technical stuff that's actually going on across this as well. That was very much the Copilot Studio Modern Workplace. I've also put in some of the pages that have actually flown through from the champion session in terms of Ignite. So there's some little screenshots and videos and things in there to be able to help you out. So that's all in the presentation, which is in the link in chat to be able to go through. There is in Sydney next week is the AI tour. If you happen to be there, I am going to be on the community stand. So if you want to come and see me, I am there. I've got the invite come through for 6:30 in the morning to be there. It's like, who was through the city at 6:30 a.m.? But people start arriving from 7:30, so I have to be there early. So I'm going right up until lunch, and I'll be on that stand with Lisa Crosby. If anyone knows Lisa Crosby here in Australia, she's amazing in that space. So I'll be standing there chatting with her. Some events that are actually coming up. It's got Microsoft Places or Prepare Your Organization, and it's 8 o'clock. No, sorry. Yeah, 8 till 10 at night. It is late, but it might be one that you'd be interested in doing in the events catalogue. All the community day events, and of course, Sharon organizes one of these community day events. She does a fabulous job, and she does it generally as a cruise. Is it a cruise again this year, Sharon?
We do two events. One of them is
Two?
called CollabCon, and it's next week, 12/12, and that's the one on land.
It's the one
And
on
then
land. Yep.
and when we do another one that's called Community Days at Sea, and that one we're still finalizing the details for so we can roll out the information. But yeah, so we typically do two.
Oh, very good. Well, Glynis, if you're going to go, you're not going to be here for the Christmas giveaway. If you want to have the Christmas giveaway, I am going to grab the participants and let's have a look-see as to who we have, because I will give everyone a number. I'm going to download the attendance list. I'm going to open the file and I'm going to see who we've got. Because we've got, we got left. Okay. So I've got numbers against everyone. And of course, it's not going to be me because, I don't want my own gift. Oh, look, for those that have been very kind in coming along, I'll put them on the list and I can always reach out to them. So everyone has a number. And now I'm going to bring up the random generator. So here we go. And I'll tell you, and we'll have put it in.
You need like a fun.
I do the drum roll. I can't do that. I wish I could have got people who've come and left and joined a couple of times. That's okay. So I'll put in up to 25. Let's go generate. And we have number 4 is then the first one. So Zeph is actually gone. I'm going to say Zeph is gone. I'm not sure if I got Zeph details, but I'll see if I can get a hold of Zeph. And then next one, generation number 12, Shari, you win a kit. So I can show you what it is, and it will come down to if you want it. I have a Christmas pack. That Christmas pack is a Copilot book, some pens, some stickers. It's a Copilot screener. It's some socks, some one place. You got the little charge bank and a hockey sock and a bottle opener, and then a cookie that I will be making for you so that you can have a gift. So that's my Christmas gift for 2024.
Well, if you want, you can find somebody local because that's an international shipping. I'm happy to defer
Are you
to somebody else.
sure?
Yes,
Are you
even
sure?
though that cookie looks amazing.
Right.
Yeah,
Let's
go ahead and pick somebody else, but I appreciate
let's
it.
have a look who on my list then is. We've got
You could just bring
now.
me a cookie to the MVP MCT summit. That's okay.
Okie dokie. We have, and still on Ching. There we go.
Yay.
Ching. Yay, Ching. And I'm going to who say. So what I'm going to get is if you send me, and I can give you my email, or if you give me your email and I'll get your address from you so I can actually send it out. And I'll reach out. If Zeph is not, can't get a hold of Zeph, then I will pull the number from the list and I will bring up someone else on the list to actually send it through. No, thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. Don't forget all the where you find, it's always in here. The video will go live online, all the various links. We've got all our ANZ community. The recordings are all live on the YouTube of all of the sessions that have been running since, well, I haven't gotten the 9 years worth, but I've put the last couple of years worth that are on YouTube until we start again next year. So all of this year's sessions are actually available on there. We aren't back until February 2024. No, we don't come back in January because it's way too early. I have put in there in the chat the link to the survey. If you can go in and fill it in, that would be just amazing in terms of what you would actually like to see if going hybrid. Any questions, thoughts, comments, I'm more than happy to answer anything along the way. I would love to thank you, Sharon, for going out of your way to do all of that work. It's been amazing. And thank you for helping us to untangle some of that, because I know that I certainly had questions and I was kind of going, what am I going to do for December? And I went, I don't know half of this. I'm going to bring someone that might know half of this in to
Happy to help.
untangle it for me. So I do really appreciate everyone coming along, and happy holidays, everyone. Have a fabulous Christmas and New Year. I will put in my email address for those that have won there we go. There you go. There we go. There you go. So you can email me your address and I can send out your Christmas gift in the mail. So thank you so much, everyone. And hopefully you have some downtime. I know things are really crazy right now when it comes to getting work finished and going into the silly season, but I really hope everyone has a bit of a rest.